Today's episode on Reawakening, I want to talk about Mark 6. So, it's been a while since I've done some filming, so I might be a little rusty. It doesn't matter if I'm a little bit rusty. You're here to listen to the Bible. You're not here to listen to me spiel. I want you to hear from Jesus today. So, Mark 6, then he went on from there, and he came to his own country, and his disciples followed him. And when the Sabbath had come, he began to teach in the synagogue, and many hearing him were astonished, saying, "Where did this man get these things? And what wisdom is this which is given to him, that such a mighty works are performed by his hands? Is this not the carpenter, the son of Mary, and the brother of James, Joseph, Judas, and Simon? And are not his sisters here with us?" So they were offended at him. But Jesus said to them, "A prophet is not without honor except in his own country, among his own relatives, and his own house." Now he could do no mighty work there, except that he laid his hands on a few sick people and healed them. And he marveled because of their unbelief. Then he went about the villages in a circuit teaching. And he called the 12 to himself and began to send them out two by two, and gave them power over unclean spirits. He commanded them to take nothing for the journey except a staff, no bag, no bread, no copper in their money belts, but to wear sandals, and not to put on two tunics. And also he said to them, "In whatever place you enter a house, stay there till you depart from that place. And whoever will not receive you nor hear you, when you depart from there, shake off the dust under your feet as a testimony against them. Assuredly, I said to you, it'll be more tolerable for Sodom and Gomorrah in the day of judgment than for that city." So they went out and preached that people should repent, and they cast out many demons and anointed with oil many who were sick and healed them. Now King Herod heard of him, for his name had become well known, and he said, "John the Baptist is risen from the dead, therefore these powers are at work in him." Others said it is Elijah, and others said it is the prophet, or like one of the prophets. But when Herod heard, he said, "This is John whom I beheaded. He has been raised from the dead." For Herod himself had sent and laid hold of John, and bound him in prison for the sake of Herodias, his brother Philip's wife, for he had married her, because John had said to Herod, "It is not lawful for you to have your brother's wife." Therefore Herodias held it against him, wanted to kill him, but could not, for Herod feared John, knowing that he was a just and holy man, and he protected him. And when he heard him, he did many things and heard him gladly. Then an opportune came when Herod on his birthday gave a feast for his nobles, the high officers, and the chief men of Galilee. When Herod's daughters, Herodias' daughter, came in and danced and pleased Herod and those who sat with him, the king said to the girl, "Ask me whatever you want, and I'll give it to you." He also swore to her, "Whatever you ask me, I will give you, up to half my kingdom." So she went out and said to her mother, "What shall I ask?" And she said, "The head of John the Baptist." Immediately she came in with haste to the king and asked, saying, "I want you to give me at once the head of John the Baptist on a platter." And the king, exceedingly sorry because of the oaths and because of those who sat with them, and he did not want to refuse her, immediately the king sent an executioner and commanded his head to be brought. And he went and beheaded him in prison, and brought his head on a platter and gave it to the girl, and the girl gave it to her mother. And when his disciples heard of it, they came and took away his corpse and laid it in a tomb. Then the apostles gathered to Jesus and told him all things, both what they had done and what they had taught. And he said to them, "Come aside by yourselves to a deserted place and rest for a while." For there were many coming and going, and they did not even have time to eat. So they had departed to a deserted place in the boat by themselves. But the multitude saw them departing, and many knew him, and ran there on foot from all the cities. They arrived before them and came together to him. And Jesus, when he came out and saw a great multitude, and was moved with compassion for them, because they were like sheep, not having a shepherd, so he began to teach them many things. When the day was now far spent, his disciples came to him and said, "This is a deserted place, and already the hour's late. Send them away, that they may go into the surrounding country and villages and buy themselves bread. They have nothing to eat." But he answered and said to them, "You give them something to eat." And they said to him, "Shall we go buy 200 denarii worth of bread and give them something to eat?" But he said to them, "How many loaves do you have? Go and see." And when they found out, they said, 5 and 2 fish. Then he commanded them to make them all sit in groups and green grass. So they sat down in ranks, in hundreds and fifties. And when he had taken the 5 loaves and 2 fish, he looked up to heaven and blessed and broke the loaves, and he gave to his disciples to set before them. The 2 fish he divided among them all. So they all ate and were filled, and they took up 12 baskets full of fragments and of the fish. Now those who had eaten the loaves were about 5,000 men. Immediately he made his disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side, to Bethsaida, while he sent the multitude away. And when he had sent them away, he departed to the mountain to pray. And now when the evening came, the boat was in the middle of the sea, and he was alone on the land. Then he saw them straining at rowing, for the wind was against them. Now about the 4th watch of the night he came to them, walking on the sea, and would have passed them by. And when they saw him walking on the sea, they supposed it was a ghost, and they cried out, for they saw him and were troubled. But immediately he talked with them and said, "Be of good cheer, do not be afraid." Then he went up to the boat, into the boat to them, and the wind ceased, and they were greatly amazed in themselves beyond measure, and marveled, for they had not understood about the loaves, because their heart was hardened. When they crossed over, they came to a land of Gennesaret and anchored there. And when they came out of the boat, immediately the people recognized them. They ran through the whole surrounding region and began to carry about on beds who were sick to wherever they heard he was. Wherever he entered into the villages, cities, or the country, they laid the sick in the marketplaces and begged him that they might touch the hem of his garment, and as many were touched him were made well. So let's unpack this now. I threw a lot at you. That's all chapter 6. So Jesus, it starts off with Jesus. He began to teach on the synagogue, and many were stunned, and they could not comprehend where he got these things. So when Jesus is teaching, people are confused right now. They don't quite understand it. They don't quite get these concepts of him being the Son of Man and the Son of God, and him being God himself. They just don't understand this. So, and his own family didn't support him, and he uttered that some truth there. A prophet without honor is without honor except in his own household and his own country. Sometimes family is the worst to deal with. Right there. That's a true statement. So Jesus continues to heal and teach. So when you see healing, if there's no teaching, there's no point to healing. Why should I sit there and heal somebody's leg if I'm never going to teach them the gospel? If God says, go lay your hands on him, he's going to give me a message for him. So Jesus then sends the 12 out 2 by 2, and he gave them power over the unclean spirits. And he commands them to take nothing. And he sends them door to door. And then whoever does not receive them, they're cursed. These people are cursed if they don't, that didn't receive him. And technically speaking, when we go into ministry, we don't want to be bogged down with stuff. With these big, long things, Like, gosh, back in the day when I was working at the Connection and I was sitting there sharing the gospel, I had a Bible about this size in there. So I just didn't want to get bogged down with carrying these loads of, books. I didn't want the attention. And so when they went out, they preached. They always started off with repentance. If you hear repentance-less gospel, run for your life from it. And they also cast out many demons, and they anointed with oil with many who were sick and healed them. So when King Herod, he hears this and believes that John the Baptist is risen from the dead. Others disagree with them. Others just think that he's a prophet. So then John was beheaded because he said to Herod it's unlawful to have his brother's wife. Then Herod feared John, that knowing he was a just and holy man, and he protected him. And when he heard him, he did many things and heard him gladly. But then King Herod changes. On his birthday, he had his brother's daughter danced for him. And he pleased Herod, so he probably did sexual favors for him. That's really the truth of what happened. Not to just water that down. So, and then her mother, wanted John the Baptist's head on a plate. Then, there you go. Then John the Baptist's head was on a plate. Then the disciples found the body and buried him. So, then after that, you have the next miracle, is where the 5,000 people, they're miraculously fed with 5 loaves and 2 fishes. And Jesus was the multiplier. So, Jesus made his disciples get into the boat and onto the other side to Bethsaida. While he sent the multitude away, he departs to the mountain and prays. Then there's a storm, then he stops the storm. Then Jesus and disciples cross over and they come into the land of Generasa. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce that. Yeah, no, I can't pronounce that. I forgot how to pronounce that. Oh well. And the people immediately, and yeah. And the people within the villages, the cities, or the country beg him to touch the hem of his garment, as they were begging to be healed. So they went to the people out there in that land and to the people within the villages. So there's people that are begging to be healed this entire time. Not sure how much they want Jesus, but they want that. And so, you know what? That's everything for today, for that one. So, guys, if you don't know Jesus, get to know Jesus, because your sin can send you to hell. And it is justified because we have a just God. He's a just God, but he's a loving God because he doesn't want you to go to hell. And so it's Jesus saved me from my sin. Whoever calls on the name of the Lord shall be saved. And if you know Jesus, it's time to share Jesus with others, or you can be thrown to hell with them. Guys, I love you very much. Peace.